Who's actually going to get the most out of a premium pair of 8x binoculars, and who can safely walk away? Is the Vortex Razor UHD 8x32 worth the price tag for someone who just wants a reliable backyard birdwatcher? Or does it belong in the hands of folks who need that extra edge for serious field scouting? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's dig into the everyday scenarios that separate the happy hour hobbyist from the dedicated observer, and see whether the Razor UHD lives up to its hype beyond the glossy specs. First off, the biggest hesitation people have with high-end optics is the, will I actually use all this technology? The Razor UHD packs a Schmidt Pechan prism and index-matched lenses that promise a crystal-clear view across the whole color spectrum. In plain terms, that means when you're watching a flock of geese at a lake, the whites of their feathers stay true, the blues of the water stay vivid, and you won't be fighting a yellow tint that can happen with cheaper glass. For a casual birdwatcher who only steps out once a weekend, you might never notice that level of fidelity, but for a hunter tracking subtle movement in low-light dawn, or a wildlife photographer needing exact color cues, that consistency can be the difference between a missed shot and a perfect frame. Now, imagine you're on a rainy morning in the mountains. You pull the binoculars out of the Vortex GlassPak Pro harness, click the hinges open, and the magnesium chassis feels surprisingly light in your hands. That chassis isn't just a weight-saving gimmick. It actually reduces the wobble you get when you're holding the thing for longer than a minute. I tested that by standing on a windy ridge, trying to lock onto a distant hawk. The lower mass meant my arms didn't fatigue as fast, and the open hinge design let me quickly recenter without fumbling. If you're the type who spends an hour or more scanning a horizon, that reduction in arm fatigue is a real benefit. Conversely, if you only need a quick glance at a game sign from a vehicle, the lighter weight is nice, but not a game changer. A practical strength that shows up only after you've put the binoculars in a real bag is the argon-purged interior and the awing ceiling. I tossed the Razor UHD into my rain-soaked backpack on a day I didn't know the forecast would turn. When I pulled it out, the internal optics were completely dry, no fogging inside the lenses, and the view remained crystal clear. That kind of protection is essential if you live in a humid climate or plan to use the gear near bodies of water. For a city dweller who keeps their binoculars on a shelf, the fogproof guarantee is reassuring, but may not be a deciding factor. One feature that can be a hidden trade-off is the right eye diopter adjustment. Vortex lets you fine-tune each barrel individually, which is great if you have a noticeable prescription difference between eyes. In practice, that means you don't have to compromise on focus for one eye just to get the other clear. When I used the binoculars for a sunrise hike, I could quickly switch the diopter for my left eye without losing the central focus on my right. However, that same adjustability adds a tiny learning curve. First-time users might spend a few extra seconds trying to get both barrels perfectly aligned, and if they are in a hurry, say, trying to spot a moving target on a crowded field, they could get frustrated. The learning curve isn't steep, but it's there. Now, let's talk about who should actually consider buying this. If you are a serious birdwatcher, a hunter who needs precise target identification at 300+ yards, or a field researcher who spends half the day in the woods, the Razor UHD's combination of color accuracy, lightweight magnesium frame, and rugged ceiling makes it a solid investment. The unlimited, unconditional lifetime VIP warranty also adds peace of mind. You're not just buying optics, you're buying a promise that Vortex will stand behind the product forever. That kind of warranty is rare in the mid-range market, and can save you money on future repairs. On the flip side, if you're looking for a budget pair to use a few times a year for backyard stargazing or casual park walks, you might be better off with a 1042 model that costs less, but still offers decent performance. The Razor's premium price is largely driven by its high-end lens coatings and the magnesium chassis features that only become noticeable when you push the optics in demanding conditions. Skipping it won't hurt you if your primary use is short, infrequent outings where you're unlikely to test the fog-proof claims or need the exact color rendering. A subtle weakness that only appears after a few weeks of regular use is the field of view at 8 magnification. With 832 optics, you get a respectable 115-foot view at 1,000 yards, but it's narrower than a 1042 would be. In practical terms, that means tracking a fast-moving deer through a thicket can require a slightly larger head turn, which